Hey friends, welcome back to more Reddit stories. Hope you're all doing awesome today. It's time to check out some more posts about some real wonderful individuals, so be sure to subscribe for more and let's begin. Neighbor's child has disabilities and won't stop climbing the fence, entering my house, and freeing my dogs. For the past 7 months after moving into my new house with my daughter and dogs, the neighbor's child, who's 15 or 16 and has pretty severe Down syndrome, has increasingly been entering my property and home. At first, I just talked to the neighbors, and they were at first really sorry and vowed to monitor her more while she's in their backyard. However, after a few months, they just genuinely do not care anymore and brush it off. I've installed security cameras in the backyard and front yard purely for my own safety, insurance-wise, because we do have a pool. She will climb the fence into my yard, 6-foot wooden privacy fence, with a ladder from their shed and let my dogs out. I've fixed her letting my dogs free, as she says, by using chains and padlocks on the 2 gates. Before this became a common occurrence, she would even let the dogs out of the house and then free them. Numerous times if my garage door is open, she will leave their backyard and just walk into my house to free my dogs. I don't know what the purpose is, other than it's something she just has to do for whatever reason. When she climbs into the backyard, sometimes when I'm not even home, and she cannot get back out, she begins screaming and crying and just shuts down. Before I started chaining and locking my gates, because of her releasing my dogs, her parents would just walk in and get her and leave. Now since I've chained it, they start a huge fit about me having her locked in my backyard, and they have to climb the fence, bring the ladder over, and carry her back over. Somehow this is my fault. Now I'm not really blaming her because she mentally doesn't know any better. She has some very severe issues, and she's damn lucky my dogs are super nice. Purebred German Shepherd, an English Bulldog, and a mixed Shepherd Bulldog. I just honestly worry about her safety in the backyard, climbing fences, and her seemingly not being watched as she needs to be. I have a pool, and if she falls in when I'm not home, she could very well drown. That's why I installed security cameras, to cover my own ass if that ever happens. I truly hope it never does, but it seems her parents just put her in the backyard and that's it. I've called the local Child and Family Services office, CPS, several times in the past 2 months to report it, because I feel she is at risk with their parents' inattentiveness and their seemingly not caring attitude of her just going into people's yards, garages, houses, etc. I have a full garage of power tools, table saws, etc. that I've now had to resort to flipping the breaker off when I open the doors, out of fear that she may severely injure herself. I feel like I've done everything I can. Talked to the parents numerous times, called Child and Family Services, installed cameras, locked my gates further. I just have no idea what to do now. I've debated calling the police when she enters, but I don't know how that will escalate. And a commenter here said this: as someone who had exactly this happen, I can tell you that the first time something serious happens to her, you are going to be liable and they are going to come after you. For 2 years, I dealt with my neighbor's kid coming over, opening my gate and doing whatever she pleased. Let my last dog out to the point I had to keep him inside and learn crate training. When I put a lock on the gate, she would climb the fence and fall over the side. This is when she got hurt one time and the parents tried to sue me for her broken arm and the piece of lattice that stabbed through her arm. I had multiple calls to police, videos, and a declaration that stated the family was not allowed on my property, restraining order, and I had my insurance involved with the whole thing in case something did happen. They didn't have a case in the long run, and although they tried to plaster me as an a-hole neighbor with no compassion for their autistic kid, once it happened again where another neighbor's dog ended up being killed from running into the street, the whole neighborhood got the same thing I have. Get a restraining order, get a property attorney involved, and call the cops. Her parents obviously don't give a crap about your property, so get your ducks in a row and get records going. Any and all videos are helpful. And I'm no expert when it comes to this kind of stuff, but this comment here sounds like some real solid advice. It does really seem like the best course of action in this kind of situation is to just have everything on record. It's pretty unfortunate when you've done everything you can to keep them out and it just keeps happening, and it's almost inevitable that things will come to a head eventually. And when it does, the more proof you have that you're not liable, the better. So good luck. Squatters keep stealing and breaking in. I had a break-in last night to one of my rental properties. It's 2 houses pretty much connected to each other on one bigger plot of land. My tenant renting one of the houses called me after work to ask me who was at the house, Panicked, I told them to call the cops, as someone had also broken in last week during the 4th of July, since everyone was gone and on vacation, and a separate time about 2 months ago. We filed a police report at those times as well, but no one was caught. For extra info, it is not just an individual doing this, it is a group of them. And also for more info, I live in Florida, so I know the laws surrounding squatters may be different. They stole 8 beds, patio chairs, they tried to steal the kitchen sink and aquarium, 2 TVs, half of the TV stand, grill, stole my tenant's groceries, his old phone, some pocket change, and I'm not sure what else. Now I'm not sure how they managed to get all this stuff out without a vehicle, or maybe they sold it or pawned it ASAP, I don't know. Anyways, while I was driving to the house yesterday to meet with the cops and I arrived, I asked them where he was and they told me they let him go. When I asked why, they said, he said someone let him onto the property and into the house to charge his phone. When we asked him to leave, he complied. So it's a squatter's case since someone let him in. There's nothing we can do since we didn't catch him stealing. We have his ID on file and he has no criminal records. And I just looked dumbfounded. The window was shattered, and I told them that no one was even home to let him in. They had a forensic unit van come in and fingerprint, take photos, etc. Funny enough, it was the same forensic lady who investigated last time. I asked her if the fingerprints matched up to last week's, could they make an arrest as a repeated offense or trespass? And they said no. I even got a letter from the police the last time, stating no trespassing and that anyone caught would get arrested, and they told me to put them all over the windows. They're bright green. And they still told me they couldn't. Last night and the same night, they broke in again around 12:30 a.m. Like literally 3 hours after we wrapped it up the first time. My tenant was on the phone with me, and he said he was watching them, and this time it was about 3 individuals. But they noticed him and hid somewhere before he could take a photo or video. They managed to take all of the groceries out of the house though. They also left a phone charging on the floor, and it was my tenant's old phone that had gone missing. I live about 15 minutes away and I arrived before the cops. Once again, nothing was done. Why and how are the cops protecting these people? And also, what can I do? They did mention that they could build a case and make an arrest later, but it doesn't cover the amount of money lost for everything stolen. The house is empty. I've read up on squatting, but to me, these people aren't doing that, and it's clear by all of the broken and stolen stuff. Another side note, yes, I am looking to set up security cameras. I don't see how in any way, shape, or form this could be considered squatting. No one is taking up residence. This is obviously burglary. It's pretty crazy how useless the cops are in this situation though. All the intruders had to do to get away was simply lie to the cops and tell them that someone let them in. And it was because it was so easy to get away with it, they were even ballsy enough to come back the same night. This sounds like some real incompetence by the police department. It's as if they just don't want to deal with it. What an absolute mess. Entitled mother almost kills me at her wedding because allergies aren't real. This is a story my mom always used to tell me, seeing as it happened back when I was like 2 years old. At the time, I had 2 allergies, peanuts and tree nuts. When I was younger, I also had eggs and wheat. My mom had a work friend, the entitled mom, who was getting married, and she invited pretty much everyone who worked at her office. And by invited, I mean told everyone to come. And also to bring gifts upwards of $200. What the hell? So my mom asked the entitled mom if the food at the wedding was nut-free, which the entitled mom said yes. Or was it? Ever since my mom has known her, entitled mom has always thought that allergies were just kids being picky. No matter how much evidence you would put up, she just wouldn't take it. She often said that if those kids need EpiPens just because they're so picky, why doesn't my son, she's been divorced, have it when he eats broccoli? Not even lying, she said this. So because of this, my parents were skeptical, and of course brought my 2 EpiPens to the wedding. At the time everyone was snacking and eating the food, I decided to eat a tiny bit of cake, which entitled mom specifically said was nut-free again to my parents. So I took a small bite and what do you know? Within seconds, hives begin popping up all over me. I start absolutely wailing, seeing as I'm now having trouble breathing. And of course, entitled mom walks up to us as my mom is rushing to get my EpiPen out and put it into me, and says in the most triumphant tone, "Ha, see? He's just picky, that's all. I had to put some peanuts into that cake just to show you." And of course, as the ambulance is arriving, she says, "Stop, stop, he's a picky child. If he needs to go to the hospital for being picky, then take my son as well." I kid you not, if this couldn't get any more ridiculous, entitled mother lunges towards the paramedics and attempts to literally take me away from them. This was a futile attempt, as literally every other person at the wedding ended up pinning her down and gave me back to the paramedics, and off I went to the hospital, my parents in tow. Here's the best part. The entitled mother was then, when she tried to get back to the wedding and continue it, left at the altar. Who wouldn't leave her? As well, she was fired from her job once her boss heard about the incident. Sweet, sweet karma. Update. Last night my family and I were talking about this incident, and so when my mom looked up the lady on Facebook, we found out that she worked at the nearby McDonald's. Anyone say I go check in on entitled mom? Entitled professional, not idiotic parent at an overnight camp check-in. I went to this overnight camp once that had carving as an activity, and the people who didn't bring a knife could buy or borrow one during check-in. There is a strict rule of not unsheathing knives until you have either had a lesson on carving that week, or have a carving certificate from a previous week, no matter who you are. Staff obviously had lessons during training, so they could. Apparently, some kid from one of the camps about 7 years ago was borrowing a knife during check-in. His dad, who we'll call Bob, wanted to see if the borrowable knives were good, as he was going to do an adult camp of theirs the next week, and wanted to know if he needed to buy one somewhere else beforehand. So he asked if he could test it out on a stick. The counselor, Tim, said no, and told him the rule. Bob kept insisting that because he was an adult and had been carving things for years, he should somehow be exempt from this rule because he, quote, was a professional, not an idiot. Tim said no. After a lot of back and forth, Bob showing pictures of things he'd carved as proof, and a quote, "I would never be stupid enough to get myself hurt while simply unsheathing a knife." He was permitted to unsheath the knife to look, but not use it. And this idiot, Mr. would never be stupid enough to get himself hurt while simply unsheathing a knife, put the hand on the sheath, but in exactly the wrong position, and pulled the knife out. And he effing cut himself. It wasn't a bad cut, but the point still stands. Bob said sorry, and Tim said, "Oh, don't worry. The other 7-year-olds do this all the time when told they can't use knives like the older camps." Well, that's going to be it for today, friends. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more, and I'll see you all next time.